So our next speaker, he has a very unique style. He believes in humanizing organizations. He is an experienced enterprise agile coach, professional scrum trainer, and a professional facilitator who has been helping organizations exploit agility's fundamental to leave behind the conventional style of working and enable continuous delivery of the highest value of all. He has guided many large enterprises through agile transformations and helped them on their journey to continuous improvement in their product development capability while keeping up humanization. In his own words, I'm a resident from Chennai, India, and I believe that my complex problems can be solved by focusing on human elements. He is also the founder of TryScrum.com, a professional training and coaching provider, a certified enterprise coach with Scrum Alliance. He'll be speaking about building blocks of the next generations of organizations. So let's give a very warm welcome to Mr. Venkatesh Rajamani.
Hey guys, thank you so much. That is so deep introduction. I think I need to skip a couple of slides. Thank you so much, Geeta. And thank you so much for the warm welcome. Let me share my screen and then, okay. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm not going to talk much about myself because enough said. And during this talk, I would encourage people to post questions on chat. I'm happy to take that as well. And I was listening to both the talks here and there. To be honest, I did not listen completely, but enough said about agile leadership. So I'm not going to talk or reiterate anything about agile leadership, but I'm going to talk about building blocks of the next generation organizations. And Siddesh, this talk is only for adults. So if there are kids around, so please ask them to stay apart. So this talk is inspired based on the inspiration that I have got from Ismail, who has written an breakthrough book on exponential organizations, and also some of the thought processes from the research-oriented stuff that is happening in the next generation organization with Forbes and London Business School. So those are the references I'm going to take. I'm going to skip this for everybody's time and benefit. Okay, so before I get into the talk, I would like to ask all of you a question. What does the immune system do? What is the function of immune system? Okay, I'm getting some responses. Fight against antigens, okay. Defend body, fight intruders, protect the body, yes. Anything else apart from protecting the body, creating antibodies? Building immunity, certainly, right? So when you say immune system, basically it is trying to learn different attacks that is coming inside. And the next time the same attack is coming in, it is actually learning to adapt those attacks and also to some extent prevent us from those attacks. So with that said, yes, act as a strong agent, making us stronger and builder. To me, to the organizations that we have been having in the world, there are 3 attacks that has been continuously attacking the organizations. Any guess? Of course, there are many attacks, but there are 3 main attacks that is continuously attacking the organizations. Market changes, uncertainty, yes. Of course, competitors. VUCA, good. Culture. Rapid changes, of course, market changes. Mindset, it's an interesting view. Technology, yes, spot on. I'm going to summarize as 3 ingredients that is continuously attacking the organization. the market, of course, the mother nature and technology. So if you see the market, we are talking about revolutions. I think John a little bit covered about revolutioning the organization. Different revolutions have been coming up. We're also talking about the mother nature, especially the climate, pollution, and pandemic. Pandemic is not new for us. And then the technology, the exponential growth of technology is continuously attacking the organization. So these three ingredients actually trying to challenge the way that the organizations are working, and also trying to build an immune system in organization. But how many organizations are trying to respond to this immunity attack versus how many organizations are able to prevent those attacks is something a question, right? So it is not an hype if I'm going to summarize saying that technology is eating the world. You could say there are many ingredients, but technology is certainly eating the world. And there is a famous statement from Mick. He has said, information is going to accelerate faster than light. Of course, it cannot exceed the speed of the light, but information is going to accelerate faster than light. So which means, are we talking about the organization is not capable of having these attacks prevented, or are we saying that without evidence that the information era is totally eating the organization? So I'm going to bring some history with an evidence-based data argument to this topic, right? Let's look at the history, Fortune 500 facts. So it is very evident that what we are talking here is relevant in today's world, because when you compare the Fortune 500 firms that got listed in 1955 versus 2016, the surprising fact is only 12% of the companies remain. That's a proliferation of revolution that we have been talking about. And also, it is because of the creative destruction. It is an unfortunate truth that we need to digest when we wanted to take our organization to the next level. So the further evidences, as I told you, the first part, I'm going to present some evidences, and then we go on to the building blocks of organizations. The lifespan from an S&P index. Can you guys guess what is the average age of companies today? It could be a random guess. Average age of any company. 39 years, that's my age. 4 years, 5, 50, 15, 10 to 15. Yes, it's a good range. 10. So let's see what the statistics say, right? This is coming from Forbes. The average lifespan of a company is surprisingly decreasing, frighteningly decreasing. If you look at the history, in 1960s, the average age of company is about 50 to 60 years. Today, if you see the trend in 2015 to 2020, the average age of the company is surprisingly reducing. It's on an average 10 to 15 years. So who is the triggering point for this change? If you look at this, when you go back to the real history of what's happening in organization, of course, a couple of speakers covered it a bit. The triggers for this tipping point is different revolution that we have been seeing in the industry. So we have had industrial revolution, and I'm not going to get into too much of the revolutions here, but the age of steel and heavy engineering, we had oil and mass production, and then we are talking about agile and software revolution now. But my observations from these revolutions, we have been getting revolution too often now. When you look at the history, perhaps once in 100 years, we got revolutions, but today, in the age of agile and digital world, we have been seeing this revolution quite often. Maybe once in a decade, it is expected that the revolutions are going to come. And what does it mean for organizations? If this is going to be continuing, the continuum of this revolution is going to be unpredictable. Some of the companies are better handling it. Some of the companies are not able to handle it. So we're going to call the companies that are able to handle this revolution this immune attack as the next generation of organizations. The companies that are able to handle this might probably be the winner in the next revolution. So let's look at some of the other interesting facts. Before that, I would like to ask you a question. So we guessed the average age of companies is 10 to 15 years. It's a good guess. Let's take an example. How many years do you guys think that it takes for a company to hit a 1 billion revenue? 1 billion USD revenue. One to 2 years is very aspiring. I would love to see such companies. 5 to 10 years. 5 to 6, 5. 5 to 10. So let's again see, right? With the database evidence, let's debate on this. It took, if you go back to the history, maybe in 1980s, it took close to 15 years for a company to hit a 1 billion or 2 billion revenue. But nowadays, if you see, it takes less than a couple of years for the same company to hit the same revenue. On the right-hand side, you see some of the organizations that I'm going to call in the later part of this talk as exponential organizations. Right from the hair to the snapshot, you see the average age of these companies and also how many years that it took for them to hit these revenues. So if you look at here, they were able to hit the revenue of 19 billion in 2011, which is their valuation. In 2014, their increase in their market capitalization is almost thrice. But if you go down the chart, the snapshot is just 3 years old company in terms of their market capitalization. So the data that I took during this talk is a little, in the backside, it's not the up to date because we were not able to produce the current data 2022 as in because we need to see how the market capitalization booms. So if you see on an average, it took in the past for Snapshot to take maybe less than 3 years to hit the 10 billion capitalization in the market. So I call these companies as exponential performance companies. So I wanted to introduce the term as exponential thinking, which I said I'm deriving from Salim. Some of the companies have got exponential results in terms of their businesses. Some of the other examples called Airbnb, for example, they were exponentially grown in the last 2 years with more than 90x growth rate in terms of their listings. And some of the companies like Google Ventures made all the startups, they made something possible that the startups can grow with the help of Google Venture 10 times faster than the past decade. So, and again, Tesla, everybody talks about Tesla. So there is definitely not an hype about Tesla, but Tesla was able to revolutionize the market, especially the manufacturing industry, 30 times faster than any of the manufacturers in the industry in terms of their growth. So I wanted to ask you another question now. Who is the catalyst for this growth? We have seen different revolution. We talked about there are different reasons. Who do you think is the catalyst for this revolution that we have been talking in the last 2 years, especially? It is not an hype if I say that COVID definitely accelerated this exponential growth. Yes, customers and technology, but COVID acted as a catalyst to boost this exponential growth. And that would mean an organization will have to move away from one kind of mindset to another kind of mindset. I think I was listening to one of the talks and there were a couple of discussions around what does the leader or what the leader should do to be able to handle this kind of a strategy continuum that we are talking about. So to me, I got inspired really from Gary, who's from the Bureaucracy LBS school. He had proposed a massive shift in terms of how we should approach this revolution, exponential growth. He had suggested 2 kinds of mindset. One is a scarcity mindset, which is on the left-hand side. And the right-hand side, I'm going to call it abundance mindset. So companies that are approaching their strategy with respect to the scarcity mindset are going to invest more on long-term investments. They're going to aim only for the short-term profits. And the focus is on getting a lot of outputs in terms of efficiency. And they believe in specialized labors, a heavy process control, and everything is known to the management. Management is the king. But the paradigm shift that we are going to talk in the exponential era is abundance mindset, because as leaders, as organizations, there is no one person going to be an expert to be able to decide how to take our organization to the next level. So to me, the abundant mindset is going to enable the short-term investments. I'm not going to talk about any agile frameworks, but every agile framework or methods, I believe, is going to endorse the short-term investments and planning horizons. And the mission and impact is very important. For example, if you take Airbnb as an example, when Airbnb was trying to get investments in the early stage, not even a single person was ready to invest in Airbnb. They had to go and sell a few assets to get the investments, because people were not believing that without owning an asset, it is not possible to make an impact in the society. But everybody would agree with me that Airbnb owns nothing but one of the leading market sharers in terms of assets management. And that is the same case with Iridium Project, Motorola versus other companies that is trying to revolutionize the market. We have also seen Nokia versus other companies, how they're able to go with the exponential mindset and thinking. Then the next ingredient I'm going to say is innovation and opportunity. So I'm not talking about the innovation that we say that as such we need to discover something new. The innovation that I'm going to talk about is an exponential innovation. The exponential innovation I mean is the results are going to be 10 times, 20 times faster than people could have not even imagined, right? And of course, cross-functional teams, moving away from specialist labors to the cross-functional organizations where everybody is able to clearly share the purpose, and decentralizing the process and making the teams more self-organized. And finally, the rise of the creator in terms of the authentic leadership, that is the leaders that are going to distribute their power so that they can leverage the collective intelligence from people in the age of software and digital. So let us take a pause. We have heard some of the histories. We have a very good data-driven arguments on why companies should reimagine the way they work, why we need to really think how the next generation of organizations are going to shape up. What does this mean for organizations? Maybe any one or two thoughts? What does it mean for organizations now? Staying visible from Anuradha. Very good. So Samik says not to just survive, but to thrive. It is not about just operating from a survival mode and trying to react to the market pandemics and dynamics. It is also about to exponentially grow your market share so that these immune attacks are not going to be attacking your survivals. It means the current structures and leadership style need to be shifted from a more of a traditional approach to human-centric from Hare Krishna S. Wisely said. To me, it means, from my books, I feel that it means only one simple change. Big is really beautiful, but small is flexible. So we have seen big organizations trying to go towards agile transformation, trying to take their business transformation. We got to be big, I agree. We need to have market share. We need to have more employees. We need to have more customers. I agree. But equally, what is important is how are we able to stay small inside the organizations so that we would be able to see the exponential growth in action rather than books. So when I say big is beautiful and small is flexible, I wanted to make sure that being big definitely helps in terms of your market share. For example, Airbnb is a very big company. Amazon is a very big company. Nobody had thought that AWS is going to change the world. And in 1980s, when AT&T was trying to invest in mobile markets, McKinsey, nothing to often McKinsey, a famous consulting company, said AT&T, let's not pitch into the mobile world because mobile world is not going to be useful. You're not going to gain any much of profit or market share from the mobile world. Let's invest on something else. So the problem is the predictable nature of these companies on the long horizon is going to be definitely engineering their fall. We need to be flexible enough so that if the market is going to change, we need to be able to turn on a dime. By being big is going to fuel innovation and funds. At the same time, staying nimble is equally important. Which means there is only one formula that I'm going to say, how do we prevent these attacks for organizations to stay nimble at the same time, not operating from a survival mode, but also in a more of a sustainable mode, is to change the game, because the game is changing. And the game that we are going to play in the agile and software revolution is going to be totally different from the games that we have played in the past. So, and that requires moving away from an incremental thinking mindset to an exponential thinking mindset. It might sound like an oxymoron that everybody talks about an incremental thinking, but we are talking about exponential thinking, which means it's not just about linearly going and doing things. It's also about trying to see the results in the market exponentially. And some of the evidences that I'm putting on the right-hand side is a good evidence on why we need to be moving away towards exponential thinking. So the magic is bringing the exponential formula. As I promised that I'm going to bring Salim's work. He has done a massive work on exponential organizations area, where the formula, XO formula, is going to be two brains of organizations. It's not just about organizations should operate from one side of the brain. As humans, we use both sides of the brains. Similar to that, the organization should use both the brains. One is the ideas, which is internal to the organization, and the scale is external to the organization. So we need to be combining these two ideas in the right combination to be able to exponentially grow and pick up with the pace of the Fortune 500 to be listed rather than being the history in the past. So the magic is based on the work that I've done, based on the experiences that I've experienced with many organizations that I've worked with, the magic is zero bureaucracy. So we need to bust the bureaucracy and come out, because I strongly believe that bureaucracy is everywhere because it is popular. It is popular because it is everywhere. So we got to bust this bureaucracy and move out of this bureaucracy to be able to turn on a dime that we have been talking about in this section. So the cost of bureaucracy is going to be definitely, certainly higher. We can't afford to really spend a lot of money in the age of agile and software digital in terms of bureaucracy. So the busting the bureaucracy is definitely a magic, but we got to move away from this bureaucracy. How do we move away from this bureaucracy? So we kind of try to put that thought as the building blocks of next generation organization, because based on the experience and based on the different research that we have done with multiple organizations, we felt that bureaucracy is one of the biggest impediments to help the organization move towards the next generation and exponentially grow. So the building blocks of organization based on the experiences that we have had, maybe some of the intuition parameters as well, because 100% scientific evidence is not there, because if it is going to be 100% scientific driven, then the human beings that we have been dealing with organizations is going to be missing the human elements. So we think moving away from the list of organization as just a system towards organization as a living system is going to enable the next generation organization bust the bureaucracy. So in the spirit of time, I'm going to be a little shorter with this building blocks. How are we doing with the time, Sanjay?
4 minutes.
Sorry?
4 minutes, right?
4 minutes.
Right, Geeta?
Okay, good enough. So we are saying that the first thing is the feature factory. We need to move away from the feature factory mindset to zero distance to customer. What do I mean by feature factories? For example, focusing more on building so many things is not going to be useful for the organization. Creating an impact by becoming zero distance to the customer, understanding the customer's centricity mindset is the enabler ingredient. An example I can quickly give you is Yahoo focused more on media meant they neglected consumer trends, which engineered their fall. So the next ingredient I'm going to talk about, co-workers to community. All the organizations that I have exampled here as an exponential organization were able to leverage communities. They are actually moving away from the co-workers mindset to a community mindset. When I say community, every part of the organization is connected to the every other part of the organization, because the organization is not an island. And of course, everybody agree with me. We need to move away from top-down coordination to the voluntary coordination mindset. Everybody should be voluntarily contributing to the collaboration. Bringing the coordination from the top down is going to definitely enable and reassure bureaucracy in organizations. And of course, moving away from hierarchy to accountability. The one thing I wanted to cover here is all the community companies and exponential organization that I've shared was able to hold good accountabilities in their workforce. That is one of the magic that they see a lot of engagement from their workforce. So hierarchy-driven companies are slowly dying, and that is going to reassure bureaucracy as well. In my view, moving away towards accountability is going to enable engagements. There is no more unit performance. We need to move away from unit performance to shared purpose in organizations, because unit-driven performance is going to kill innovation in organizations. Of course, moving away from establishment to experimentation, the next building block, we need to enable a lot of experimentation. Of course, we need to fail fast. We need to enable exponential ideas to thrive in organizations. For that, we need to encourage experimentations in all parts of the organization. Innovation is no more centralized. We cannot engineer the innovation by saying there is a dedicated team that is going to take care of innovation. Innovation should be bread and butter in all parts of the organization. To some extent, it should be embedded in all the teams. And of course, it requires an organization to be an open adaptive system, not just a closed departments. That's not going to be useful in organizations, because as I mentioned, organization is not an island. Everybody is connected to everybody. So we need to come out of departmentalization mindset towards open adaptive system to be able to turn on a dime. The last ingredient is we need to move away from practices driven, implementing a versioning of agility towards formulas, rather than we need to think, how do we move our organization towards principle driven so that we are going to move in the right direction. And that requires a lot of shift from the leadership. Rethinking leadership is the only way. I think enough said about leadership. In the spirit of time, I'm going to miscoding a few things on the leadership. The only ingredient that I'm going to introduce, I'm happy to spend some time in taking some questions and explain if there are any questions on this area. There are 5 models. When I say models, I'm not talking about the formula installation. There are 5 ingredients we need to learn from these exponential organizations to be able to enable the next generation organization more capable and resilient. So that is motivation, not just the colleagues, it's more about community, motivating your community to bust the bureaucracy everywhere. Models, we got to learn models from your exponential organization so that we can challenge the bureaucracy. Of course, the mindset is coming out of the established mindset to an abundant mindset. Moving towards an abundant mindset is the key. Mobilization, we talked about outdated management needs to be hacked, and we need to be totally reimagining the way that we work. And the last one is migration, embedding some of the principles of exponential organizations to hack the culture so that the immunity attacks are not going to totally question the survival mode. So in the spirit of time, I'm going to, it's a long talk, I know that, but thank you so much for the opportunity, Sanjay and the team. And back to you. Sorry if if I've taken some more time from the planned one.
No, Venkatesh, you are right on time. Only thing is we could not take questions from the team members. What I would suggest is, team, please post the questions. We will consolidate as we spoke earlier. We will send it to Venkatesh offline and we will try to get some responses from him and publish it back. We will try on it, or Venkatesh is available on LinkedIn as well. So you will get to hear directly from him. Please do connect and please do approach. And the brain part of it, good one, Venkatesh. We will try to see how both the brains can be put for use. Thanks for those interesting insights. And let's move on.